tax increases and user fees is short term. This isn't going to help. Mike Brown, who's, you said 69 in Birmingham, I think he's over Lansing way, Miss Poplar. I think he's living cozy in a nice fancy home over that way. But don't be mistaken. They're here for the short term. They don't care about you people that are living here and have lived here for decades. They don't give a rip about you. They want to make as much money as they can. A guy who's earning more than the governor of the state, $170,000, I believe. They want to make that money. They want to inflict all these costs on you.
Alex, Mr. Harris, you've exceeded your 5 minutes, please.
Let me wrap it up in a couple.
You got just a couple minutes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Kincaid. Ladies and gentlemen, what they want to do is offer these short-term solutions based on massive tax increases upon you, supposedly get the deficit down to a manageable level, float some bonds like they did when Kurtz was here previously, and then get the hell out of Dodge. Yes. And they're going to be laughing all the way to the bank because they're going to have lots of money, and they won't see Flint again. It's as simple as that. And God help us if we pass another tax increase and play their shell game. Because that's all it is moving that key in those 3 shells. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Our next speaker this evening, Madam Clerk.
Chris Del Moroni.
Mr. Del Moroni.
Thank you. My name is Chris Del Moroni, and I live in Flint, Michigan. Well, I guess the going rate for property in the city of Flint is $1. That's less expensive than what you can buy property from the land bank. And you know why it's the going rate? Because over the years, that's what we've done. We've sold property for $1. Tonight we're hearing about people complaining about a park being taken over for a parking lot. I'm against that. Mobley Park, though, they ran a street right through that and nobody said anything. And guess who owns the property next to Mobley Park? You know, it's people associated with Uptown in one way or another. It's a sad day. We've given property, Harrison Street, we vacated part of that. We've given streets to the Flint Journal, Brush Alley. I mean, the list goes on and on. In regards to water, I think it's important that this council works to negotiate a deal with Detroit. And the reason I say that is the contract was between the city of Flint and Detroit, Michigan. It wasn't with Genesee County. It was not with any other entity. It was the city of Flint. And if you think water rates are high now, wait till the pipeline comes here. I mean, because that metal is not free. That piping is not free. The people don't work for free. It's got to be paid for. The police millage, in reading our local paper, the Flint Journal, it sounds like there will not necessarily be any increase in police or firefighters. It's merely money that will be brought in to pay for the current police and fire, and then the grants that are given to the city for the current police and fire will be done away with. That's Kettering University, that's the Mott Foundation. We know who the players are. I'm concerned about the water lawsuit that's being brought against. I don't know if it's the city or who it might be being brought against. But if that lawsuit is successful and the residents get some money back because they were paying for an illegal rate increase, where do you think the city's going to get the water or the money from? To me, it'll be from the citizens, just like they did for Genesee Towers. And one needs to ask themselves, why would Uptown and those associated with that spend over $3 million to tear down the towers for a park? There must be another alternative motive to that. And I believe it might be to move the farmer's market to that location. Because again, you want to look at where the farmer's market is located and who owns the land around that. Okay? Sometimes there's not always a direct correlation of what goes on, but there's other things going on off to the side. Thank you. I'm behind the curtain. I would ask council make a referral to find out if there is any way at all that the city of Flint can get out of backing the bonds for that Rutherford parking deck. It is such a drain on this community. I mean, you know, it's most unfortunate. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, the Genesee Towers, that lawsuit was merely, I believe, in my opinion, the legal means to acquire that building, for Uptown to acquire that building. You know, my understanding is the city was collecting some revenue because there were some antennas on top of that, the towers, and you know, the towers was the tallest building. It's the tallest building in the city of Flint. Do you know what building will now be the tallest building in the city of Flint? The Mott Foundation building next door. I mean, you need to start putting these pieces together. I'm just telling you, you need to attend neighborhood meetings, county board of commissioner meetings. The big thing, and I'll just plant this little seed, and some other day I'll spend more time on it. But as they've gone after some of the other community assets, some of the other assets in our community, the city of Flint, watch what happens with our Flint School District. That's the next play in this. And they're lining up the people to get the votes for that. They won't need votes from council. They'll need votes from the Historical Commission. They'll need votes from the Flint Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Del Moroni. Comments by council members? I'd just like to address one portion of Mr. Del Moroni's comment about the water lawsuit. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, but the basis of the lawsuit is that it's an unfair tax, and when the city collects water and sewer rates and collects that money and commingles it with the general fund to be used to purchase Tahoes and pickup trucks and garbage trucks and pay for administrative fees and costs, it's an illegal tax. And the residents shouldn't be assessed a tax without this council voting on it. And they imposed it, and we're fighting it. And that's the bottom line. It's in the court, and the court will make a decision, hopefully soon. But you can't collect money from residents for one thing and then commingle those dollars and use it for something else. And that wasn't just my opinion. That was the opinion of the state's financial review board that reviewed the city's finances prior to the announcement of Mike Brown as the emergency manager. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Mr. A.C. Dumas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is A.C. Dumas, and I do reside in the city of Flint. Unlike most of the people that works for the administration, I want to say that I'm against any tax increases, whether it be for police, park and rec. Y'all know y'all voted for that. The people voted for that. It's on my tax bill, I know, because I saw it when I paid taxes the other day. I paid a park millage for here, and I paid a park millage for across the street. And the grass in the parks over here is this tall. The fences are torn down. No hoops, no nothing. So we can blame most of this on ourselves. Every time, now they got another scare tactic. Police millage. And God bless our little seniors. They go to the thing and push yet. We're going to get more police. Just like we was going to get cleaner parks. Someplace where our children can go, where families can go, enjoy themselves. Listen, if you tricked me the first time, if you tricked me the second time, it's my fault. I'm telling you, we've been tricked and tricked and tricked. You think it's trick or treat, it's just trick. Let me say something. I've been gone, as most of you know, I've been in an accident, but I'm on my way back. The seniors, they only get X amount of money per month. And for these undue, unjust taxes that Mike Brown, I don't mind calling his name, have put on the seniors and young families and struggling families, it's a shame. Let me tell you about the recycle. You can't pay your taxes. The next thing is going over where? Who ends up with the county? And then who ends up with it? Land bank. You can't, why y'all vote for all these taxes so the county can take your house? Then land bank will have your house. And them folk that don't live in here, if it's a nice house, they'll scoop up your house. If it's a bad house, they'll just leave it there. Y'all understand? But something is happening. I'm going to put this out, but I ain't going to tell what. Some of them know. Something's happening on next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Something's going to happen. Y'all remember, next Tuesday. I didn't say where. At 2 o'clock. Something's going to happen. Councilperson Poplar said it right. Talk is cheap. And that's all we've been doing, talking. I don't want to name groups, just talking. Talking. And while we're talking, the other folk are laughing. They taking our money. Listen, my mother's old and sick. And trying to make it. Katie Vine is trying to make it. I ain't gonna say old, but she's trying to make it. Norm Bryan is trying to make it. They lived, and I'm wrapping up, they lived in beautiful communities. And now, I live on the north side, on Rankin and Chippewa. My area look better than their area. That's a shame, isn't it? City of Flint, all of it should look wonderful. So I'm telling everyone, I'm wrapping up, that don't vote for the police millage. Please don't vote for the police millage. Don't vote for the renewal when the park and rec say no. Y'all voted for the MTA. I know y'all did. I voted no, because I'm not voting for no renewals or any of that stuff. Because they be trying to take my house. And ain't none of y'all gonna let me come live with you.
Thank you, Mr. Dumas. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Claire McClinton.
Good evening. My name is Claire McClinton, and I've enjoyed some of the comments here tonight, and I know it's a lot more people from previous public hearings that are now energized and ready to fight. I see this council has woke up and they're ready to fight. I just hope it's not too little too late. That's what I hope. Now, I think there's so many shenanigans going on in Lansing, and it's a lot of shenanigans going on here in Flint. When the state of Michigan humiliated our city and all of you and all of us on Election Day last November by announcing that they were going to send an emergency manager before we even had the polls closed, and we was humiliated that day. Shortly after that, Ed Kurtz was asked would he be interested in being emergency manager. He said he didn't want nothing to do with it. He didn't want no parts of it. Now he's the emergency financial manager. Isn't that something, everybody? That's something? We remember Ed Kurtz and his $250 water deposit. We remember that. But I just wanted to kind of recap about Public Act 4. I guess I'm kind of at the point where, you know, I hear some of the comments about talking with Mike Brown and sitting down with Mike Brown, and I'm not interested in talking with Mike Brown. I'm not interested in anybody that represent me sitting down with Mike Brown, because Mike Brown is a dictator. We don't have anything to talk about. He's an unelected, imposed czar on our city. So I don't know why we continue to talk about talking with Mike Brown. We need to be talking about how to get rid of Mike Brown and the law that brought him here. I think that it's important to review, and I also heard some comments about, well, why did Mike Brown do this and why did Mike Brown do that? Because the law gave him the power to do it. That's why it was done. Public Act 4 empowers him to do whatever he deemed necessary and represent the interests of who he sees fit to represent. There's no part of Public Act 4, as awful as that legislation is, that he did not use. Set aside your local government. He did that. You like that? How about changing union contracts? He did that. How we like that? Public Act 4 allow him to seize public assets. He's doing that. How we like that? Dissolving community advisory councils. Public Act 4 gave him the authority to do it, and that's why he's doing it. The question we need to ask ourselves is, why are we even dealing with Public Act 4? Where did this come from? Did it come from a morally challenged governor? Well, yeah, that's part of it. But what is happening is that now that manufacturing is ceasing, the auto plants are shutting down. We've got corporate and investors like buzzards circling around the cities that were once centers of automation and production. When we were building cars and trucks, we generated a lot of assets. We created a lot of wealth. The factories are gone, but those things that were created, the assets we created, are still here. And we've got investors and corporate and all this stuff who's trying to get their hands on that for pennies on the dollars. Now, when we were building cars and trucks, we continued to maintain these parks.
Clara,
we maintain these.
Clara, you've exceeded your 5 minutes. Please sum up.
I will sum up.
Thank you.
But we were able to maintain these things, and we should not be giving these things away to Uptown, to the Mott Foundation, to General Motors, and to the regional chamber. These assets need to be used to provide for the needs of our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clara.
Hey, Mr. President,
Councilman Lloyd?
I know we only have a couple more speakers, but I just want to say this. Miss McClinton, you put something in perspective that we've been in meetings and conversations, and to some groups I've been a broken record, and to some of you, to some groups you've been a broken record, but you put it in perspective, and this is what you said. The law came from somewhere. Somebody passed it, somebody utilized it, somebody made the appointment. And so, like Ms. Clinton, many of us were in the very beginning trying to fight this thing, not just when they handed it down, but standing in Lansing and sitting in offices and standing in hallways. We took buses and groups and retirees and everybody down there. Eric Mays was down there. Some of this body was down there as well. But I wanted to pause in this moment because I don't want what you said to get lost in this conversation about challenging and throwing out and flipping what the decisions that have been made. If we don't vote, then we can expect worse than what has happened. And that's the reality of it. Now, I'm elected to represent a ward. Some think I do a good job. Some don't think I do a great job. You can't please everybody. You just try to do what you can with the resources you have. But it's not just a city councilman job or a mayor job or a community activist job. This is a community, residential, statewide job. If we stay at home and we don't vote, laws get passed by people that are higher than us that nobody likes. And at the end of the day, my mother's water bill was just almost $400. I got to pay it. I got to pay it. I have to pay it. Plus, I got to pay my own water bill. And so things happen that don't just affect you all. Let's not lose that. But it affects everybody in this community. And so the moral to this story, Delrico Lloyd, is this. We have to, as we have in these conversations, keep that conversation out there about people going to the polls and voting for who they want. Stop talking about, you know, this happened and I'm not going to vote no more and they raised these taxes so I don't care no more. If you don't vote, then people will get in office that don't represent none of us. And so I just want to make sure that that don't get lost in the conversation. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to rally and all that. And we're doing that. All of the organizations, we're doing it. UAW, we're doing that. But we have to keep that conversation in there that if we do not go out and vote, they're waiting on this PA piece, the PA4 piece, to get repealed so they can pass something else. And so what happens this coming November if individuals that don't go out and vote across the state to put a majority back in Lansing that will make sure that that don't pass after November? What happens then? Because the city council in Flint and Pontiac and Detroit don't affect that then. It's a people thing. And so I appreciate you putting that perspective. We got to make sure that we're drilling in everybody's heads, our family members who don't vote, that we have to go vote if we want to stop this legislation from passing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Eric Mays.
Mr. Mays.
All right, I had put a slip in at the end because I wanted to see Clarissa Shields come in from Bishop Airport, and what a sight it was. I enjoyed that. I knew they was going to Burston, but I wanted to stop by here because these council meetings are very important. The public comment part is more respectful now after we were slam dunked by the emergency manager. We had 3 minutes. I even took an arrest. I went to court today. I got arrested during the emergency manager thing for speaking for over 3 minutes, but we'll talk about that in court on another day. This thing in this demonstration of democracy, as I looked at it close, caught on to what was happening, and you still have to catch on because you have to be pretty sharp to catch on to what's happening here. That group, Stand Up for Democracy, and the people statewide, I know for a fact they've educated this community. Stand Up for Democracy and the information that flows educated me. Claire, Naira, Bernadette Jefferson, people across the state, they done educated me. And as a group, we move and we get things done. This council must admit that it's been educated, maybe not all at the same time. this council must congratulate Stand Up for Democracy, or otherwise we wouldn't be here talking. If that petition drive didn't happen, you wouldn't be in power right now. We wouldn't have a chance to repeal and suspend right now Public Act 4. So what Ms. Clinton is saying, and I guess what you was trying to echo, she's saying, Del Rico, is that we must put our priorities in order. One is to be to turn out the vote statewide and repeal Public Act 4. Soon as we see which way to vote on it, soon as the language is clear, vote yes or no, repeal it, get it out of there, never to come back. Y'all got a twofold test. While they trick you with all of the little things, the water bills, the Genesee Towers, while the police millage, while they trick you with all the little things and keep you occupied, with all of what I'm calling the little things. And I hear people say they own it, and I hear you, I know we own it as a group, but I'm trying to make a point. Watch how I'm gonna end up, and if you hear what I'm saying, help the council understand it, because we've been lacking leadership. See, the problem we had before the emergency manager was you guys and the mayor understanding some of you. Now you pick out to be who you want to be, but I'm going to say boldly, the problem in Flint politically is we're lacking leadership. It just didn't happen when y'all became new council people, but when you function as a council, you have to function in a vote of 5. You have to vote as 5 to say, I'm gonna get the questions from Peter Babe. He's not gonna not sit in his attorney's seat. He's not gonna sit in the back room. He's the legal counsel, and if I need him here, I'm gonna keep him here if I have to subpoena him here. See, because the charter say that you owe us a favor. If Tim Herman is getting the attention through the Department of Economic Development, the charter say you have a duty to subpoena them and put them in oath in a public meeting and develop questions and give us answers that if they lie, it's a perjury penalty. See, the city and the leadership is designed that you don't have to ask questions and wonder what's going on with the money. It's designed where you call them before and you go long hours. Remember, we went 155 rounds to 1 or 2 o'clock at night playing politics on voting in an ombudsman. But you got to go some long hours now. We in the trenches. It ain't gonna take all the lawyers you think. It's gonna take some long hour leadership. See, if I'm a council person, I'm putting a motion on the floor. We need emergency meetings until we get this straight. See, you got some work to do. And let me explain how this works. Remember the old discussions we had about revenue producing. If I'm a leader on the council, I'm talking generating revenue, creating jobs through the Department of Economic Development, because when you create jobs and get 5,000 or 6,000 people with checks, which I know how to do if you put me in a leadership position, then you will have people with checks who will buy land bank houses.
Eric, you've exceeded.
Sum up.
Well, you got a minute or two.
Okay, well, remember the 2 things to fix the city is create jobs and income tax revenue, and people will take that income tax revenue in vinyl side houses and put new carpet, and then you'll have property tax revenue. Now, who's working on putting 5,000, 6,000 to work? It's the Department of Economic Development. If there's not one man in the city who know how to put them to work and y'all can't find them, then ask me. So that's what your job is. Your job is to generate revenue so people can have money to buy property, and when they have property, they buy property tax. They pay property tax. So think about what the bigger picture is. All these little sidetracking and shell games that you're spending time chasing. Remember, you can remove appointees under the charter. You can also subpoena people under oath on any subject matter, including Tim Herman. And you can do it transparent and open, and then when we come to the mic, we can help you be leaders. But we're lacking leadership from the council in some key areas, and they ain't putting in the time, and as well as from the mayor. When we fix that leadership void, and I'm saying it with all my heart and trying to be respectful, you got to put in some long hours. We used to call it at Michigan State, you got to pull some all-nighters. God bless.
Thank you, Eric. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Lawrence L. Muhammad.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening. Good evening.
In the name of Almighty God, the benevolent, the merciful, I bear witness there is only one God, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'm respectful of all the prophets and the sages of the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, and the Injil. I come and greet you in the greeting words of peace. I am happy to see you back in those seats again. My only question is, what do you do now? You've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled, you've been led astray. That's right. You've been lied to, you've been deceived. Now you've been given a second chance. As it speaks of in the Bible, when Job was afflicted with illnesses, he didn't turn away from his God. He stood by it, and his God stood by him. When his wife cursed him and told him he needed to curse God and die, he stood by his God. When Abraham was faced with, I would say, an illness where he couldn't bear children, or his wife couldn't bear children, God sent him a handmaiden so he may be able to bear a child. When Moses lived in Egypt and saw the afflictions of the Hebrews, he had to go to the mountain and talk with God. God sent him back and told Pharaoh to let my people go. You're dealing with another Pharaoh. You've only replaced one Pharaoh with another. You took Mike Brown out and you put another guy in. Pharaoh is still Pharaoh no matter what side of the coin it's on. But what we have to look at, dear council, and the people of Flint, is that have you had enough? I've been here on several times at several meetings, and I'm gonna keep saying the same thing until somebody understands what I'm saying. In 1963, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came to this city and gave a speech on black and white. It didn't have anything to do with skin color. It had to do with the condition of a people that were depressed and oppressed, no matter whether they were black or white. We're in 2012 now, and we're still dealing with issues with poor and rich. This city is divided so badly and shrunk so badly that it starts at University and ends at 12th Street. It starts at Center Road and ends at Flushing, or what is called, Ballinger Highway. That's City of Flint. Anything out there is not important to those powers that be. But I say, what do we do about that? I'm glad to see that this council has got the testicular fortitude to stand up to what they didn't stand up to 5 or 6 months ago when I stood here before you. There were people that sit right